Our podcast is called Rowan On. Each time we have a guest, it will be a specific topic.
This toolkit where you can think entrepreneurially, learning how to pitch yourself, how to pitch the idea that you want to create some sort of impact and do good in the world and leave this legacy.
Hello and welcome to Rowan On. Today's show, we will be talking with Jessica Vattima, and we will be talking all about entrepreneurship. Jessica is with us. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yes.
Okay, so your title is the Director for the Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
You did.
Okay.
You did. Great job.
Now, you're a house within a lot of houses. Can you break that down? What does this all mean? Tell us.
Yeah, so it does get a little bit confusing, doesn't it? So we are, let's think bigger picture. So we have the university and we have the provost office. And then under that is the Roar College of Business. Under that is the School of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which launched in 2022. And that's what houses all of our academic programs. So the entrepreneurship minor, the major, a variety of certificate programs at the grad and undergrad level. And then we have the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And so even though we are physically housed in Business Hall and we are within the School of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, the center itself, which is what I run, is for students across campus. And so we are working with students from all majors, all disciplines, all of Rowan's colleges and campuses and programs.
I love that. I love the multidisciplinary entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes. Yeah.
In fact, sure. I think I was telling you earlier, I went on to do some research for today on the website, and I learned a new word that I didn't know existed.
What was that?
It was intrapreneurship.
It's one of my favorite words.
And I love it because I feel like I fall somewhere in that category.
Why do you think that?
Well, because I like to work on solving problems and within the workplace, and not necessarily problems, but making things better and helping people work more efficiently and more collaboratively and bringing ideas and things from all facets together. So I feel like that aligns with that.
Yeah, and I also align myself as an entrepreneur. At one point, I didn't even know what entrepreneurship was, and I probably shouldn't say that on a camera as I'm running the center, but I really.
Well, at one point we all didn't, but now you know all about it.
And and I think when students come here, they don't know what it is either. And sometimes I get to a student their senior year, and I'm like, "Do you know that you're like running a business?" And like, "No, I'm not." Or sometimes I'll hear like, "I'm not smart enough to be an entrepreneur." It's not. I'm like, first of all, no. It's so important to have this toolkit where you can think entrepreneurially. Whether or not you're going to start your own business is a whole separate issue, but everyone really should have these skills to one day look back and say, maybe who knows, 10, 15 years down the line, you might start a business and you can refer back to what you've learned at Rowan. Or what I think is most important is that once you graduate, you can take these skills that you're learning, part of the entrepreneurial mindset, all about creative problem solving and identifying gaps in the market where you can insert yourself and create impact of some sort. And that's what industries are looking for. Corporations are looking for that when they're hiring their recent grads. So if we can equip students with this way of thinking and thinking, outside the box, everyone has heard someone say that, but now apply that to maybe processes that have been around for 20 years at an organization, and how can you optimize and make that better?
Yes, I have that same question all of the time. Is there a better way?
Yes.
Why does this work this way? Can we make it better? I feel like it's a constant,
exactly.
in all sort of facets. And I feel like entrepreneurship can also, entrepreneurship can also be applied not just like to a company or a business, but also to the betterment of society and the world. So social, volunteerism, those sorts of things as well, service-oriented work.
Yeah, social entrepreneurship is super important. And I think especially what we're seeing with this generation is they care so much about so many different things. And sometimes I'm like, you need to pick one lane that you care the most about and find something in there, because you can have you can start a nonprofit. You can do so many things. You can start a social entrepreneurship leg of any type of organization. There's a lot that you can do, and it's important to. And I think the students recognize that, right? Like sometimes they don't even care about the paycheck anymore. Mm-hmm. They really just want to create some sort of impact and do good in the world and leave this legacy. And I think that's really special.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love hearing that. I will say, when you come into this space, there is a different feeling, a different vibe than other offices and spaces around. There is like a buzz, a certain kind of vibe here where, people are excited, and it's a place where you can experiment and explore, pitch an idea. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Pitch another idea, mm-hmm. tinker in the maker space. And it's very collaborative.
Yep.
And I just love that so much. And I think it's just a fantastic building space, all of it, center. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. I love hearing that. I mean, we've tried so hard to make this space something that students can be proud to work in. And when they're sitting here, they gain inspiration from what's around them. And I think going back like 5 years ago, everything here was just like a white walled building. And I really tried to put forth a brand who are we as not just Rowan University, not just as a school, but as the center that is representing every discipline at Rowan and what those students stand for and what all of those students can resonate with, because that's what, everything we do here is student focused and student driven. And so if a student can come here from engineering and education and fine arts and business, and they can all come together and feel at home, my job is done at the end of the day.
I love that. That's great. Let me ask you, what would you tell a student who has a ton of ideas, or maybe just one really big idea? Could be out there, could be crazy. What do you tell them? How would they focus it into an actual business plan or venture? Tell me, how would you advise them?
Ideas are just sometimes so big in our head. And for a lot of students, they're very scary. And I know that sounds silly almost to say, but, this idea of perfectionism, and you don't want to say something out loud until it's like perfectly worked out and tested. And you don't want to disappoint anyone, and you don't want anyone to think that what you have to say is silly. And I think this generation really struggles with that, as every generation probably does. But now in the age of social media, it's just so much more on center stage. And for students who come to us and they have all of these ideas, I think the first step is just learning how to talk about them, learning how to pitch yourself, how to pitch the idea that you're working on, whether it's 1 or 10 or whatever. Just you have to be able to talk about them out loud. And sometimes when I get a student in a meeting and we're talking and it's like, well, I have all these ideas, I don't know where to start. And we just start like word vomiting. And that is the first step. Like, let's write it down. Let's brainstorm it out. Bring in a whiteboard, bring in a bunch of Post-its. Is it viable? Is it going to create revenue? Do people actually need it? Is this a problem that people actually have, or maybe they don't know that they have it yet, but can we convince them? Like a great example of that is a cell phone. You're that generation didn't even know that. Why would I need to have a cell phone that's not in my house, that has to come with me all the time? Why would I even want that?
Right.
And now that I can't live without mine.
Yeah.
So there's so many things are riding on these students, especially today, with Rowan having so many first generation college students, and a lot of these students that we work with are putting themselves through school. So they have a full-time job, they're going to school full-time, and then they have their own business on top of it. I mean, that is hard.
Yeah. Like
failure isn't an option.
Right.
And it's a really hard reality when it's just part of the process, because what I like to say is We have to learn how to fail fast. And it is a step. It's not necessarily a road bump, but it's more of an accelerator. Okay, it's not working. Are we going to keep going with it? Are we going to put another year or two into it? Or are we just going to recognize customers are not really responding to this? How can we pivot? How can we change? How can we, move on?
Right.
And take those experiences, do some serious self-reflection, pull some numbers and tie some data to it. Why didn't this work? What could we have done better? What are customers actually looking for? And then move on. Like I want them to do as many projects as they can because it becomes habitual for them. So by the time that they leave, it's no longer scary of, oh, I'm going to put myself out there. I have this business idea. It's like, oh, I have this business idea. I know where to go. I have my toolkit. I know where to find the investors. I know the resources that Rowan has, and I'm just going to start.
Yeah.
So it's not as scary anymore as that first meeting that we have.
That makes sense. And it's like the stakes don't feel as high, and you're used to. It's like someone who is going through something where their work is being critiqued, or it's you have to keep trying and trying and trying, and it becomes part of the process, and it becomes a natural kind of rejection. But it's okay. We move on. We build up the next one and the next one and the next one until you get that grand slam.
Yeah, I mean, constructive criticism is tough no matter what industry you're in. No matter what industry you're in, and like who wants to hear that your idea is not good.
Right.
Investors are sharks. Judges are tough.
Yeah. Well, it's money. It's their money that they're investing.
Sure.
So they want to make sure it will work and succeed. Yeah. That's great. So tell me how a student would try to get venture funding, money and funding from investors for a startup. How would that work?
So Rowan has a great pipeline to support students in that way. And it starts in the very, if you think about it almost like a spectrum, the very first stage of that is we have a competition called Think It, Pitch It. And it's more like back at the napkin ideas. It's low stakes. There's no pressure. It's a 60-second pitch without any slides. And a student just gets up and shares their idea. And I started this competition in spring 2025 because I felt like students just needed a confidence booster. We're getting so wrapped up in their head. No one wants to share their ideas. No one wants to feel like they sound silly. And I'm like, you know what? And also, pizza just doesn't get students in the door anymore.
Yeah.
I have to pay people to show up. No, I'm just kidding. But there is a chance to win like $100 if they have the best idea of the day.
Okay.
And that's just the goal. So it's been super successful. We run it 6 times a year now. And that is the first stage, I would say, for a student that has an idea that's floating around. The next one is our fall idea challenge, which runs every December. And it's a student showcase. So we'll have about 50 startups or so, and it's all based on interdisciplinary collaboration. So students from 2 different colleges at least have to be on the team. And we bring in judges. We actually bring in faculty from across campus to judge it. It's a really exciting day. I think right now I have like 135 faculty signed up.
Oh, wow.
For a Friday. I know it's kind of, that's hard. But I'm excited. And it's like a 300-person event. It's really exciting. And that's in Business Hall. But you can win non-equity seed funding for your idea. And the prize pool is $6,000. And all of the funding that we offer, for the most part, I will say, is all non-equity based. So non-dilutive. I'm not owning any type of stake in their company. It is almost like a grant. They just take the money and they had to put it back into their business. Going into the spring semester, we have those Think It, Pitch It competitions again. But for the most part, students are really gearing up for the new venture competition and expo, which we run every April. So that's 2 events. We have an expo in the morning and a competition during the day. The New Venture Expo is similar to our idea challenge, where it's based on more of like an idea stage startup, team-based, and everyone's in Business Hall, and we give a 6-foot table, and they have to, it's not a science fair by any means. They are talking with judges, and they have a prototype, and they have their entire brand identity that's like on their table. It's really exciting. The expo actually is like one of the best events for the community because we bring in external judges. So we'll have about like 90 judges that come in from the community, and they're all founders and entrepreneurs and innovators that are within different industries and are some of our stakeholders, which is really cool because it becomes like a networking opportunity.
That's great.
And that is another $6,000 prize pool.
And there's only one winner.
Only one winner.
One winner. Okay.
One winner.
All of this sounds wonderful. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities for students to develop their ideas. It's fantastic.
That is the goal, because I think, I remember what it was like to be a broke college student.
Sure.
And a lot of these programs are the difference between a student saying, no, I can't, and taking an opportunity to say yes. That could change the course of their life.
Yeah. That can be huge. Tell me about your background before you came to Rowan. I know that you've done some work on some major TV networks, MTV, SNL, Netflix. Tell me about your experience.
I don't really consider myself an academic. I took a bit of the non-traditional route in that I didn't even go to school for business. My background is in TV production, was what I did my undergrad in at Seton Hall. And I grew up in Glassboro. My mom's house is still down the street. And my grade school was right down the street, but it's now a park. And so I kind of always saw myself, what I first wanted to do is I wanted to be a news anchor. And I hate the news, so that dream quickly died. But when I got to college, I joined the TV program, the Pirate News, I think is what it was called, and I was a news anchor, and I couldn't read the teleprompter, and they said I had some sort of like weird accent. It was like South Jersey accent, and it was just. I didn't like wearing glasses at the time because I felt uncool and I couldn't see the teleprompter. Like there was just like so many things happening. So they sent me behind the camera, and that's where I found something called production management, which is what I really fell in love with. And ironically, production management is the business side of TV, which is kind of where I'm at right now. But it was all about hiring people and running teams and the budgets and schedules and the creative behind the show, like the creative behind the creative. And that was really cool. And that is kind of where I landed myself. I got my first internship at MTV, and it was a great experience. I think it was my sophomore year, and it was cool. I don't know if you know where Seton Hall is.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So it's like right outside of New York. So I was taking the train in, and I was going to class, and I thought I was like really cool, and I was.
Yeah.
But then let's see, that was my sophomore year, and then I did an internship at Nickelodeon.
Oh, wow.
And I was doing on-air promos. I was not on air. We were editing, actually transcribing. You were really working your way up from the bottom, you know?
Sure. Internships. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a great experience. And this was all under the Viacom bubble. So I was working in Times Square, and that was just the life. It was
living
so cool.
the life.
It was so cool.
That's great.
And then from there, I went to SNL, and I was a set design intern, and that was quite the experience. I learned a lot about myself that semester, I like to say, because it was just like a really hard working environment, and I did not have the thickest of skin, and I really learned how to kind of like stand up for myself that semester. And I did not stay there long. I did a semester there, but it actually taught me like, okay, I want to go back to MTV like that. I could see myself in that culture, and it was a great fit, and it was so fun. And like, I loved what they were like, the work that we were doing. It was like really cool. And so I kind of positioned myself to be, when I graduated, I went back to MTV. That was my last internship. And it was MTV2, actually. I don't know if that's a channel still, but it was MTV2. And just talk about like right place, right time. People were moving around. I think someone left. Someone got moved up. And I was like, I'm here. I know how to do all the programs and I'm capable, like give me a shot.
Yeah.
And they did. They hired me before I had even graduated. So I was an RA at the time. I was finishing my degree and I was working full time. And so my professors were great. I was like working with them and they knew the life.
Yeah.
But it was that freelance life for so long. And probably the most well-known show was Wild and Out. And so I did a couple of seasons of that.
Okay.
Have you seen?
I haven't seen, but I've heard of it. That's something. So tell me what you did on that show. What was your job?
So my role was to work with the production assistants. And I think at that time I was a production associate or production coordinator. It feels like forever ago. I've lived so many lives since then, but that's trauma maybe. But I would organize the craft service and we would get different locations locked in. And we did a couple of award shows. So I did like the European Music Awards in Times Square. It was like a kind of like an offshoot of what they were doing in Europe. And we did like, I think it was one of the Jonas Brothers, and we did that at a diner, and like that was really cool. And
speaking of awards and competitions, this is a great time for me to ask you.
Yeah.
Tell me about the awards of this whole area.
Well, there's so many. No, I'm kidding. It's crazy. I mean, the awards are really based on the student work, and that's what just keeps the center running, in my opinion. But because of all the great things that they're doing and our alumni are doing, we have a top program in the country. We've been in the top 50 for the Princeton Review since 2022. Mm-hmm. And we've been in the top 12 regionally for Princeton Review since 2022, which is a huge deal. I mean, if the school launched in that same year, so we've been consecutively making that list.
That's great. Congrats. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're going to switch a little bit into a different segment where it's kind of couple of rapid fire questions. Okay. So are you a Swiftie?
Yes. Why? What have you heard? Have you seen footage?
Oh, there's footage of you as a Swiftie?
Definitely not.
Okay, there must
be.
Not
floating around.
We will find it. No, because Taylor Swift seems to be.
She said something about me?
She did.
Okay.
She seems to be an interesting, multifaceted example of an entrepreneur. So tell me about being a Swiftie and why you're a Swiftie.
I don't know if I've ever been asked this question. I feel like my husband is going to make so much fun of me. Well, I mean, I grew up with listening to Taylor Swift from her debut album, and I think it sounds so ridiculous as you hear these people say this like online. You're like, what are they talking about? And then here I'm literally about to recite it word for word. But you have an artist that's kind of like gone through so many different stages of your life that you relate to, and I mean, she's like my girl. And also, I have a daughter. She's 7. And I've been able to kind of bring her into the Swifty life. And so we went to the concert together, and
that's awesome.
We listened to her and I have been listening to like the new album on repeat together. And it's just like something that we can do together.
Yeah.
So it's another phase of my life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that she's a great example of a smart business person. She's
a great role model for sure.
Great role model. Yeah. Obviously very talented, but just from a business standpoint, just her going in and recording all of her, albums again so that she would have ownership and the rights, and re-releasing them under her own name, label. I don't know what you would call it, but just a good example of an entrepreneur out there.
I agree. And I think that everything that she stands for is just so important for everyone. It's kind of like coming up in this lifestyle too, and knowing your worth and working hard. And, but I would still like the Reputation, Taylor's version.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for that.
Okay. You've worked, with, on the TV side of things. So let me just ask you, what is your favorite reality TV show that involves or has an entrepreneurial angle? So it could be Shark Tank, it could be Project Runway, it could be MTV Cribs, it could be anything that has that a sort of a apprentice. It could be anything that has that entrepreneurial angle.
I actually have been into some podcasts. I like the NPR podcast, the How I Built This podcast.
Okay.
Are you familiar?
No.
It's pretty cool. We actually tie it into a lot of our classes. And so the host will interview like a ton of different people, like Airbnb and Sarah Blakely from Spanx and Chicken Salad Chick, if you're familiar with that franchise, and just kind of like dive into their stories. And so that one I think is it's not a TV show. It's not really an answer to your question, but it's still in the media world.
No, I like it.
And that one's a bit, yeah.
Well, this is a podcast, so I'm happy to talk about podcasts. And that's great that you take to one that's within your passion in your world. Mm-hmm. That's great. And one of the reality shows that my daughter loves is It Cake?
Mine too. A Halloween episode just came out. We watched it.
We haven't seen that one yet, but we're going to.
It just launched this week. But yeah, my daughter loves that show.
It's funny. So you have to give them that.
Yes. It is cringy a bit, but it is good.
I mean, is it cake? I don't know. Okay, so I also visited Studio 231.
Yes.
And I got to meet some awesome students.
They're so great.
Super helpful.
Yes.
And let's see, we had 2 mechanical engineers and 1 engineering and entrepreneurship dual major. They were great. They were super helpful. I was able to go in and, one thing they helped us with is print out our logo, and I was able to test it out on a T-shirt, the Cricut and the application process, which was awesome. Ran into a couple of technical difficulties, if you will, but that's probably me just not applying enough pressure or heat with
it's all part
iron.
of the learning
Part of the learning yes.
opportunity. Yeah.
But then also I got to just test out a pitch of an idea that I have. It's not a business per se. It's more of a, I say like a workplace culture campaign. So I was able to sort of tell them about it, kind of get their reactions, and then they helped print out a cool design that we applied to a T-shirt, and that really worked out well, and they were fantastic.
Cool. I'm glad you had a good experience.
Yeah, they were great.
Can't wait to see you rocking your shirt.
I'm going to rock my shirt. It's going to be great. I'm going to give you a quote, and I just want to hear your first reaction to it. Thoughts, feelings, what it might mean, just what comes to mind, okay? The quote is, "The only thing worse than starting something and failing is not starting something."
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about a bit earlier that failing is not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. And so I think who wants to live with regrets?
Right.
Like it's the worst thing that can happen is it's not going to work out. The worst thing that someone could say is no.
Yeah.
What's the alternative? What's the best thing? Like we talk a lot about how you can combat fear and in terms of entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And so a way to do that is, okay, all of these things can happen, but look at this list of things that could actually go right and all the opportunities that can come from like this best yes that you could give. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's so spot on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's sort of a kind of a mantra, you know, the support you have for entrepreneurship is this spirit of give it a try, you know, don't be afraid to try, you know, if you fail, get back up again, try something else, tweak it, and it'll be maybe even more successful than your first idea. Mm-hmm. So that's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
It was a delight.
Glad you got to visit.
Yes.
Meet some students.
Yes. Just a fantastic tour and great to hear from everyone. So thank you again so much. And we wish you the best success in your entrepreneurship center.
Thank you.
And the future, it just seems very bright.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of Rowan On. I'm Karen Holloway saying goodbye. See you next time.